Good morning, all. We have very esteemed panel with us. Way beyond 2004, there was a campaign by Reliance, Kar lo duniya mutti mein. And now, after 25 years of that, literally it has come true. A 6-inch mobile phone is having everything. Whether your social behavior, whether our repayment behavior, whether our, entertainment, news, everything is in just a click of button. So now we have a esteemed panel. We cannot have the similar kind of collections which we used to have earlier. Most of the seasoned people might have witnessed those receipts, manual receipts, and then payment recon and all. Those era has gone. Now we have mobile apps, we have payment links. Now this cannot continue for long because it has obviously worked on saving the cost. Now the era has come where we have to work on prevention rather than cure. So now we are not supposed to be reactive but proactive. So I would like to go to one of our member, Mr. Dhaval. So Dhaval, what is your view? Because you are looking this industry from outside, and what is your view that what should be the key performance indicators for collections?
So thank you, sir. As you mentioned, sir, the consumer behavior is changing, right? So typically when you are talking about the KPIs, it's mostly always been the connect rate, it's been how much promise to pay we have been able to capture and how much bucket aging is happening. But just to give you a bit more context, the entire consumer behavior is changing, right? People used to watch test matches, now they're moving to T20s. We used to see a very long TV series. Now I recently came to know there is a thing called microdrama, which is a 5-minute episode. I never heard of it, right? And it would be a bit difficult for us to relate, but the newer generation, they are more aligned with that. So the people who used to, get connected over the call, now there is an audience which prefer, rather than talking, connected over the WhatsApp or other social channel. So while the KPIs are still true, but they might not be able to give you the complete picture. And there are supporting KPIs which is going to help you get the complete picture. So just by looking into connect rate, you might not be able to get the complete picture, but is it which channel is engaging better, where you have been able to get the response. Same way in terms of the overall experience, and when you're talking about the bucketing, it's not going to be that, okay, whether they move to a particular stage, but can we look into data and identify even before it happening, as you mentioned, instead of being cure, can we get into more prevention? So apart from the current KPIs, what I believe, which is going to add and give a complete picture, is the channel performances, overall which channels are performing better, data which is going to get us the insight, okay, whether that person is more likely to default on particular thing or they move to a particular bucket. So the all over signals that is going to help us defining the KPIs. That's what I believe, sir.
Thank you, Dhaval. Now, my question to Sanjay. He is looking the KPI from outside world. Now, as you are within the system, how do you think that this roll rate measurement or flow rate measurement or the resolution measurement, from there, how you are shifting, your KPI to pre-delinquency management, or how you are going to measure it?
Thank you, sir. Good morning. Thank you, sir, for giving opportunity. And the question is about how KPIs is shifting gradually in industry. After COVID, we have seen now it's shifting towards preventive approach. Preventive approach means now we are not looking after delinquency, what going to happen? We are thinking about how we can prevent to default those accounts, those borrowers. So all the algorithm, all the strategic thing is now there to how to prevent it. How we can prevent account to be slip in even in bucket X or bucket 1 also. So in collection, in all strategies are now shifting to fixing that what exactly happened when at the time of giving the loan. So we are putting all the efforts, all our outcomes or feedbacks, what went wrong exactly. So after getting wrong, we have seen that its prolonged delinquency is not directly hampering to our profits. And yes, prolonged delinquency also cost one and costly one affair. Even all, so if we can save the cost of litigation also, if that way, if we can resolve the cases on early delinquency only, and we can sustain that delinquency, if we can, in portfolio, we can sustain that number by resolving in early delinquency or keeping them into account as a regularized one. That is our strategy. And yes, still in industry, because bouncing is always there, risk is always there. Whatever is happening, yes, we are recovering, but all the thought process is there, how prevent it. So this is what gradually shifted now in the industry, sir.
Thank you, Sanjay. Now, Shreyas, this cost of collection, we measure how much we are going to incur cost to collect 1 rupee from the default borrowers. But is it the right way to collect, calculate the cost of collections? Or should we look into like opportunity cost? Or should we look into other preventive measures which can save the cost as a cost of collections rather than being a reactive and calculating the cost on the basis of just the 1 rupee collections cost?
Yeah, thank you. Good morning all. So I will answer this question probably 2-3 steps. First is the cost of collection as a matrix is something which started as, in early 2005, 2008, wherein, after the default of the customer, we would start tracking how much we are paying in form of incentive, how much we are paying in form of agency cost, and it was pretty straightforward. It still is very straightforward. But over the years, like everything, even that particular parameter has evolved. In fact, almost every bank or NBFC today will have, cost of collection is probably a byproduct which is coming at the end. Okay, and then there are other parameters which are influencing that particular cost. So if I have to talk about my expected cost of collection, let's say today I'm expecting a bounce of 15% in a particular product, and I'm expecting a cost, of 100 crores. Can I bring that cost down from 100 crores to maybe 60 crores or 40 crores by doing interventions? And almost every bank, every NBFC has evolved to that stage where everybody has a model in place for every aspect or every stage of customer's delinquency. So we will start probably by pre-delinquency. In pre-delinquency, your cost of interaction, if you can prevent the bounce itself, then you are saving probably 200 rupees, 500 rupees per case of agency cost in collection. That's step 1. Step 2 is when the bounce happens, despite that if the bounce is happening, you already have a persona of customer, wherein the customer has interacted with you in a particular language, in a particular nature with you, or a particular channel. You have that data. That data then forms as a feedback towards your next step of bucket X, wherein you will use that data to choose the perfect channel. Okay. In most cases, if I talk about 5-7 years back, we were preferably using call centers and a telecalling model in an early bucket, X bucket strategy, right? So there, the blended cost would be a matrix to define that cost. But when it comes to today, if we look at it, the same cost we'll look at a 3-layered cost, because you will have your GenAI or bot interactions which will do majority of the churning. They give you an advantage because you can reach out to 1 million customers in an hour, which the traditional call centers can never match. Okay. You build it up on top of the existing call center. So that gives you the scalability of reaching out to 1 million customers directly. Whatever you can churn out, almost 50-60% gets churned out there. Then you have the next 20-30% which gets churned out from call center, and the rest is going to the your field agency or the field staff. So that's where the cost of collections matrix shifts quite a lot. Other than that, if I have to explain the cost of delay and the opportunity cost that you mentioned, so let me give you one example. Let's say today, if I have to do a settlement on a particular customer, which is probably at a 120 DPD or 150 DPD, and the customer is asking for a waiver of 15-20%, whether we should do it or not. Okay, many banks choose not to do it, but at the same time, an NBFC will probably do it. Because there's a huge opportunity cost. Today, I'm thinking about losing my principal of 20%. But what I don't calculate is that settlement of maybe 20% loss, which will give me 1 lakh back, okay, that 1 lakh will go back again in your chain of disbursals. अगर आप उसी लोन को बाहर डिसबर्स करते हो, उसके ऊपर आप एक 15%, 17%, whatever loan you book, you start getting interest out of it. So that probably that 15-20% loss that you're seeing in front of principal loss, that gets covered in a span of years. But if you keep it in NPA for another year, you're still not getting anything, and you'll probably end up spending more in terms of waiver losses, your collection costs, your agency effort. A lot of effort will go. The particular customer will remain in your database for a long time. So there is a cost which is attached in terms of technology and other aspects as well. So in that case, we need to be really proactive on which cases to settle, and what the next generation or the next age of collection will do is that you will have an AI which will take care of your channel selection, customer personification, and what kind of campaigns you take. We already have bots which can do settlement discussions with the customer. They negotiate the settlement, they do a VAT calling, they verify everything. They take care of 70-80% of your volume. So it allows us to do campaigns at a very, very large scale. Previously, we used to select only 20-30% customers because we were limited by the cost attribute. Now we are not limited by that. Okay, so that's how the cost of collections has evolved. It is still one of the key parameters, but it is now layered with other 7 to 8 parameters which contribute towards it. Okay, yeah. So that's what helps us in being proactive and driving the cost of collections. Thank you.
Thank you. So I would like to bring Krishnendu in between. The cost which we talked about, we are collecting the cost in reactive manner currently also, but proactive manners, how you are going to calculate the cost. It's not about only opportunity cost, but like you are using the AI bot, or you are using sub-preventive measures, pre-delinquency management. There also you are saving some cost. And those costs can be a part of the calculation of your cost of collections, whatever you have saved.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the invite here to the organizers. So I'll take a cue from what he said. First things first is, we have seen over the years, collection cost for small ticket product has been a make or break for a lot of companies. We have seen small ticket personal loans, consumer durables, two-wheelers. If the portfolio was not managed well, if we have very high bounces, and parallelly if we had very high collection cost, these products were not sustainable. A lot of banks, a lot of NBFCs had to close it. So, and now also there is a challenge on these products. So from that perspective, there are two things what we need to do. A, how do we manage that cost? B, how do we get benefits out of these accounts? When I say benefits, how are you going to improve your recoveries, which will add to your top line? How are you going to improve your fee collections, which will add to your top line, which will counter your costs, right? Now coming to cost, how do you manage cost? In a high bounce, high volume kind of a scenario, first things first, what you do is find out how you do a customer segmentation there, right? So customer segmentation, when I say that, which are the customers who are probable to pay you through phone calls or just a nudge? That segmentation plays a major role in deciding your overall collection cost. Basis that strategic move, you then decide how you're going to deploy your collection force accordingly. Whether you're going to use chatbots to collect, which is like very minimal cost, which you incur, and then telecalling which is maybe slightly higher, or on the hard bucket cases, which is like where you don't have any other options but to, feet on street, has to go knock, knock, knock and collect. So this segmentation through, data analytics plays a major role. And once you do that, once you see the positive outcome of that, that is where you bring in synergies of scale, and that is where you actually contribute to the product P&L and ensure sustainability on a long run.
Thank you, Krishnendu. Now, Manoj ji, RBI has come up with early warning signals. So they have asked us to develop a mechanism where you are not supposed to be reactive, but you should know which all accounts have the possibility to go into delinquencies. So accordingly, the risk team is also supposed to react. So what do you think that where risk team should intervene once the bounce has happened? Or if it is preventive measures, then where they should actually intervene in between?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I always believe that success of recovery starts from the very early stage when we deduct the risk. And this is the reason risk department has been introduced in every organization. See, but once the case went into delinquent, so there we are going to cure it. And cure means already financial companies are in the loss, and now we have to cure. What I think we should act like, we should preventive actions we should take, and this is the reason risk team has been involved. So what is the role of the risk team? Risk team basically identify the data, they review the data, they go through the data and analysis everybody. Now AI tools also there. By the help of all these things, they can identify that which case is moving into risk zone, which case is moving into the bucket zone, and what action we can take to prevent all these losses. Suppose there are some financial issue with the customer, accordingly we can went to meet with customers and we can take coercive action. If there is some talkative discussion, if we can take and aid the customer change their mindset, we can close the risk. So I mean to say that risk department is playing a very vital role in the system, and this should be preventive. It should not be reactive. That should be preemptive. If we will prevent, if proactive approach say we can hold the risk, we can work on it, so definitely we are going to get financial benefit to the organization. This is my personal thing.
I would like to bring Dhaval again. So when we talk about the prevention of default, or when we talk about early warning signals, obviously being a lender, we have limited access to the customer's data. So whatever repayment behavior he is showing to us, that is known to us. So unless until bouncing happens in that account, or it comes into the delinquency, we cannot know that this account is going to be bad in future. So being obviously from the digital platform owner, how you are going to predict the bouncings or the delinquency?
Thank you, sir. So again, let's look into two different scenarios, right? Where one case where you have somewhat signals. Let's say the person is already part of your digital ecosystem. You know what amount is getting credited into his account, and you are also seeing credit card signals and few other things. And second scenario, what you mentioned, that you're only getting the repayment information and then you don't have any other visibility. But the advantage with the technology which is coming in, that you've been able to identify the patterns. You'll be able to, segment and bucket customer. As sir mentioned, there are going to be people who would be able to, engage over the regular follow-up. On other hand, there is an audience where just a digital nudge or engagement over any social channel would be able to get them to process. So what visually we are doing is we analyze each and every conversations, and we see that, okay, if there are any patterns emerging, so when we are talking about the preemptive cases, so if somebody is only, let's say, making a minimum payment, if that is the behavior what you are seeing, then you know that, okay, there's a probability of moving to a bucket is comparatively high, using, thousands and lakhs of record which we analyze. So ultimately, by looking into data and identifying pattern, we'll be able to predict rather than letting it happen and then being more reactive. The system will be able to start giving you early warning signals that, okay, based on this sort of patterns and behavior, there is a likelihood, and again, there can be a probability that there is a 80% likelihood, 90% likelihood, because we are looking into a very large set of data, and then we'll be able to, identify and put a common behavior into a segment, and then we can engage with them, react, and proactively reach out to make sure that it doesn't move to any sort of bucket. So yeah, data, and because we are looking into large sets of data, we'll be able to identify, and ultimately, there is always a feedback loop, right? Whether you're talking about AI or any other system, ultimately the collection team and the recovery team is giving us a signal that, okay, whether whatever the prediction we made was accurate, or what was the new insights being discovered. Ultimately, that's how system is going to get more mature, more advanced, and it would be able to predict better. But yeah, coming back, looking into the patterns and segmenting it, and then having a right strategy for each and every segment that is going to help us being more proactive. Yeah.
Thank you, Dhaval. I think now we have access to more data, like we have other credit platforms, credit bureaus. Their data also can help us or to predict the behavior of the existing customers. But what I personally feel, we are in the service industry, and the collections cannot work in isolation. So onboarding a customer is just like getting married with someone. And if we are getting married with the intention that for lifelong we are going to be together. Similarly, we believe that any customers whom we are onboarding will complete their life cycle with us. So once any default happens, suddenly we start victimizing, or suddenly we start behaving like that the same customer is a villain to us. So I would like to bring Rijit and want to know how this customer experience during the collections should be one of the KPI. Because anyway, once this customer will become regular, then again he will become a good customer for us. So his experience during collections should not be so bad that he do balance transfer of his loan accounts or he close the account with us. And then obviously it is going to impact us also in longer run. So his customer experience during the collections, how it is going to be?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Is everyone comfortable with Hindi as well? Okay, so I'll try to kind of respond in English and Hindi. तो देखिए अभी सिचुएशन ये है कि कस्टमर एक्सपीरियंस इज़ जस्ट नॉट एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल इम्पेरेटिव द रेगुलेटर इज़ वाचिंग अस वेरी वेरी क्लोजली इन द लास्ट कपल ऑफ मंथ्स आपने ऑनरेबल गवर्नर के जितने भी स्पीचेस या मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी इवेंट्स देखे होंगे उसमें द अमाउंट ऑफ फोकस दैट्स कमिंग ऑन कंज्यूमर प्रोटेक्शन इज़ क्रेजी. Earlier, you would see RBI only talking of fiscal policy, talking of repo rates, talking of foreign exchange, bullion. Abhi economic times mein every second day there is consumer protection, there is mis-selling, there is recovery practices, there is grievance addressal. That's essentially the focus that the regulator has already started giving. So rather than the regulator telling us everything, it's important that we as organizations only start kind of waking up to this. Because I was hearing my co-panelists talking a lot about cost. यहाँ पे आप एक भी कंप्लेन अगर बैंकिंग ओम्बड्समैन के पास लेके जाते हैं RBI reviews the organization as guilty until proven innocent, and the customer is always going to be given the benefit of doubt. So when we talk of AI in terms of recovery rate, flows, predictability, we also have to look at embracing technology in terms of evidencing. Because what happens is कि when a complaint goes to a regulator, all that is going to save us is essentially how robust is the evidence. आपने evidence रखा है या नहीं रखा है? And typically from a field collection perspective, how do you perceive or how do you kind of prove whether the customer is saying the truth or whether the organization is? So interestingly, मुझे एक analogy याद आ रहा है. There's a lot of videos that we see and in the developed countries, you would have seen policemen carrying body cameras in terms of interactions, typically when they are kind of looking at traffic offenders and all of that, because a lot of complaints also go in terms of law enforcement agency people in terms of the fact that it was a wrongful arrest or a wrongful detention. So I think evidencing is going to become very, very critical. And I think once evidencing starts coming in, the ability to introspect and improve ourselves from within will also start coming in. Because otherwise, the moment you kind of get into a customer versus us mindset, it's typically going to be that it's probably a human nature that I am not at fault. So as you rightly said, sir, in terms of the fact that demonizing or villainizing the customer the moment the customer gets into delinquency is definitely going to kind of cost us very dearly. The penalties that RBI is imposing is extremely high. RBI has just released a draft circular around recovery and collections as a theme. It's going to kind of come into force very soon. It's going to be very stringent in terms of policies and processes around collections, keeping in mind consumer protection. And the fact is, technology has to be used in a manner which is also customer-centric, because when you look at your entire portfolio, not every customer is the same. So as you're talking of behavior and in terms of how do you predict, do you also have ability to kind of coach AI or coach the human in terms of how to behave with probably a high net customer who's probably forgotten one payment versus an MSME who's probably in a bank probably has a large liability relationship, in probably an NBFC has multiple loans. So where is the customer segmentation happening? We hear a lot of customer segmentation happening during sales or during acquisition strategies. But in terms of why is it a straight-jacketed approach when it comes to collections from a customer segmentation standpoint? We don't have different strategies necessarily in terms of how the last mile is behaving with the consumer as far as the different segments that the consumer belongs to. So these are things that we'll have to keep in mind, else I think RBI is very, very unforgiving in terms of anything which is anti-consumer interest. And I think experience is something that needs to kind of get mainstream, because obviously there are operational metrics on which the organization or the units are getting measured. But I think till the time we don't kind of mainstream customer experience also as a parameter, need not be as fancy as NPS, because we are not measuring loyalty, we are measuring the borrower's experience during the interaction with the collections machinery of the organization. So definitely the experience or the CSAT scores should become mainstream, complaints should become mainstream. The penalties that typically come in, minimization of that should become mainstream, in addition to operational metrics.
In banking also, no, when we onboard a liability customers, then our service level will be different. When it comes to asset side, we know that it is the need of the customer. At that point of time, our service level is different. When we ask somebody to deposit, say 1 crore of FD if we want to source, then our approach is different. The kind of, our sensitivity is different towards the customer. When it comes for asset, when they are coming to us for loan, then we deal with the customers differently. So, Dhaval, I would like to know from you, being an outsider, because I'm always calling you outsider. It doesn't mean that you are an outsider, but not from the same NBFC or HFC within the system. So you will be able to give me a different perspective, because you are a customer also. So what kind of KPI we should develop for the collection employees, like these grievances, the complaints? These should be also the part of the KPI, rather than having the end result, that is the how much you have collected. So collection obviously is the end result, but actually we are in the service industry. We should focus on the service, not on the end result, that is the transaction. Like we are sitting in a hotel, So they service you throughout the day. They are not focusing that how much they are going to earn from you. But when it comes to collections, we are always looking for the end result. So I would like to know your views.
Sure, sir. So let me talk about a couple of practical experiences, right? So whenever we are going to any large enterprises and deploying the solution, so whether it is Rootel or any other voice AI, we'll be able to stay on the call, analyze each and every conversation, even when we are transferring to the human agent. And couple of observation what we had is that all of you are running a very large operation, right? You might be having a couple of 100 people making calls. Now, it's not humanly possible to review each and every call. Everybody follows certain sort of SOP. And what I've seen is that you'll have 5%, 7%, 10% calls being reviewed. And whatever outcomes you are deriving, you are assuming that rest 90% following the same. But trust me, it would never be the case. I've seen cases where, not BFSI, but other clients where the target is, couple of hours of call. And just to meet the target, the caller will just call the friend and say, "Yaar, aaj kaun sa movie dekha?" And just to make sure he's hitting his daily number. So basically, with advancement in technology, it's very much feasible that you'll be able to analyze 100% of conversation. And as Shreyas said, like your top of the funnel, 60, 70% of the engagement is going to take care by voice AI, where all the governance, everything is already been built in. So over there, you are not going to have that sort of compliance or governance risk. Rest 30% calls, which might be done by your agents or been transfer. Now the AI can review each and every call, and at the end of the day, it can identify, okay, what are the cases where we try to do mis-sell, or the conversation was not proper, or there was any sort of lapse in compliances or governance, and even it can go step beyond, and it can jump in a live conversation, because not everybody would be well equipped with all the situation, particularly when you're hiring a fresher or somebody which is new to the system. Obviously, they're going to take some days, some weeks, some months to get comfortable. So then AI can go as a companion, and whenever they are fumbling, it would be able to give a nudges, or it would be able to give a pointer that, okay, this is how the entire conversation should be happening. So it's going to be, AI or any sort of tool which is supporting the team and making sure that all the compliance and governance part are being taken care of. So you are 100% being compliant. So yeah, that's what I think, sir.
I just want to add something more. See, what I found when I was taking care of only legal, I was not in the recovery and collection part. So I was believed कि नहीं collection वाले तो जाते हैं and they only argue with the customers, and this is the reason why case is going to be bad. When I moved to recovery team and when I visit to the customer, I found कि नहीं, there are genuine customers in the market. And yes, it is correct. If we are going to meet with the customer and if we are going to understand their problem, and if we are going to guide them properly, believe me, 50 to 60% customer is going to regularize their EMI. It's totally depend how you are going to deal with them. You are going with the aggression that nahi tune default kiya hai, you have to pay. Yeah, first you are going to understand ki what is their real problem. See, so once you will understand the real problem of the customers, and accordingly, if you are going to suggest, if you are going to give some view, definitely he is going to help you out. And here, risk team involvement is very much, who can analyze everything, who can analyze what was the problem, and accordingly, he can provide the solution.
Now, I would like to bring Krishnendu again. As you are dealing with the mass product, and obviously, all the customers are not getting contacted by you or your personnel only. So you are hiring some agents, and you are dealing through agents. How we are going to, develop a KPI for the agents, so that, because in my eyes, we are dealing with the humans. So we should not forget this underlying statement that we are dealing with the human. So whether he is a delinquent, whether he is a regular customer, at the end of the day, he is a human, he is having emotions. And this attitude at every now and then, which we do from our subordinates, that we always ask, kitna hua? Kitna hua? So that kitna hua creates a pressure on the employee, and that results into that kind of behavior. So what kind of KPI we should not develop for our own personnel, but even for the agents, which can help us? As you are dealing in the mass product, obviously, you are not dealing with directly to the customers.
So we have to understand that collection is a high impact and reputation sensitive function, right? So each and every collector or the entire collection ecosystem, they influence customer trust, they influence regulatory exposure, and also they, bank brand image also they influence. So at any given point in time, if you have a KPI which is very heavily on the resolution and outcome side, unintentionally or unknowingly, you will be encouraging aggressive behavior, because at the end of the day, any person down the line or within the ecosystem will ultimately have an objective of the ultimate outcome without the process he's following, right? So from that perspective, I think conduct, compliance, how you manage your grievance is very important. And we know today, there is a regulator who is watching you every day. Today, if you don't close a complaint within the right time, per day you pay 100 rupee penalty. Okay, that is there. And a lot of banks and NBFCs are paying it, okay, because they have just ignored. They might have closed the case, but they have not completed it properly. Okay, so RBI comes back and says, boss, you have to pay the penalty to the customer now. So coming back to the point, so I think here compliance, we'll have to keep a watch on compliance. Apart from performance, how many are they following the code of conduct, the timing, the talk off with the customer, everything has to be monitored, okay? When I come to compliance, whether the policies are being followed, whether the guy has given a proper receipt of the proper amount, okay? When I come to grievance, how a collector or a bank employee has handled a vulnerable customer. How many percentage in 1,000 complaints, 1,000 cases that you have, what is your percentage of complaints that you have? What is the percentage of repeat complaint? What is the percentage of satisfied customers you have in terms of complaint management? All these play a major role today. And if not managed well, your overall resolution number will not impact. Everything put together will have an overall impact. So from that perspective, I think we need to have an entire KPI which should, the overall, at least on the leadership level, the overall number should be restricted somewhere between 40 to 50%, and rest all these things should play a major role in another 50%, is what my take is in the current scenario.
Thank you, Krishnendu, very well articulated. Even RBI or the regulator is giving the similar number, which that is 1600 for the customer service as well as for collections. So motto remains same, that collection is no more, collecting only the payment from the customers, but it is also a part of or extended part of the customer service. So Shreyas, I would like to know from you that how you are going to help in developing such kind of KPIs, and again, what kind of the behavior you expect from your employees?
Yeah, thank you. So I'll just take on from my Suvendu that see, a lot of times collection as a unit or as a department is a place where where emotions are very high. Okay, especially when you go on field visits, meeting the customers, or even while you're interacting with the customers on phone, there's a lot of emotion involved, and those emotions which come from our people. They are normally driven by, like Suvendu said, it's driven by the targets that we give. So as an organization or as a company, that we need to look out for few things. There should be a lot of place for empathy in your policies. Okay, the two things that control here are, the first is what kind of policies you make. Okay, today if I'm making an incentive policy for my people, which is only talking about numbers, that itna karoge to itna milega wala jo approach hota hai, the pretty standard old school approach that we follow, then your employees are going to do that. Okay, and for them the numbers are important, their salaries are linked to that, okay, and they have their needs to meet. So it will always be that. So we need to come up with policies which are creating space for these kind of scenarios, wherein a particular customer's behavior or a particular agent's behavior towards customer is being evaluated. And believe me, maybe 5-8 years back, it wasn't possible for us to evaluate and create policies of that level, which was considered this factor. But today it is possible. Like, Dhaval said, that even a customer's call recording, okay, every call which is being recorded can be evaluated. You can get a score, okay, based on whatever performance indicators that you give, whether it is being, there is some aggressive language being used, what kind of issues has been tackled, was it a very good conversation, bad conversation, it can be flagged. So as somebody who's sitting in compliance or who's reviewing or who's doing a quality check of these calls, he doesn't have to go through every call. He just has to look at the calls where the score is very less and look at the calls which are really good, okay? And then create your policies which will give you this kind of inputs, okay? And then we can monitor and use that to drive a culture of, to drive the KPIs which will build on, okay? That's one. Another thing that you can do is some of the tech will play a lot of role here, okay? Because every call that is being made, okay, today we can be made from the app or the systems that we have. Earlier they were being made by the personal phone calls, and so it was very difficult to track. Okay. So today with tech coming in, the example of body cam which was given, right? Today I think we have moved away from things called the physical receipts that we used to give a decade back. Now everybody is issuing an app, everybody is getting a notification on SMS or a WhatsApp on their app, even legal letters. So this kind of tech will always help you create these KPIs which can keep the people in control and drive their performances based on, and it will always keep a emotion side in a little check. And maybe from a policy side, it is not only about putting the stick approach, we need to put a carrot approach here, wherein we can say, look, if you do this, this is what the extra incentive is about, this is what your good behavior is. We need to start recognizing people who are doing really well and finding solutions out of the box for the people. I have known collection people who have gone out, realized that a customer has lost his job. They have literally helped him find a job or maybe give a reference here and there so that a guy can get a job and start paying his EMI. A lot of times you have seen this, and we have seen a great example of this during COVID, wherein the government, the moment it extended the moratorium period, those 6 months allowed people a big relief. Okay, and it also developed something in the other organizations that we can use this approach where we can give some time of relief for the customer. Maybe come out with a restructuring plan and come up with different solutions for the customer, which will help you drive a better solution-oriented approach rather than a number-oriented approach with the customer. Okay, but it depends on what kind of customer you're dealing with. If the customer is somebody who's an habitual defaulter or who's just an intentional defaulter, the approach has to be completely different. But somebody who's a situational defaulter, somebody who has the willingness, somebody who's cooperating with you, will definitely give you a different strategy to tackle such kind of customers. And that's where majority of your recovery comes from.
So I would like to bring Dhaval here, and taking clue from what you said, like intentional defaulter and a customer who is not intentional defaulter, how you are going to differentiate it, and even to develop the KPI, we have, like when we have in performance measurement programs or even incentive programs, therefore bucket 1, bucket 2, bucket 3, recovery, everywhere we have percentages of resolutions, and only few percentages here and there we make some changes, and it is for all. So how we are going to customize it for the different set of the customers so that we can bring more empathy in the collections, and how we can improve the customer service level. So how we are going to link both of them.
So, sir, overall, with again coming back to the technology, we have been able to easily detect emotions when AI or anybody talking to a customer based on emotions. What we usually do is that the behavior is changed automatically. So when somebody is, let's say, you're talking about stress, then the way it's going to engage is going to be completely different. Even let me take a step back and talk about, so earlier when we were in a speaker's lounge, we were talking about somebody dealing in a student loan, somebody dealing in a home loan. So even with the kind of engagement we're doing, the overall conversation is going to change, because the way I'm going to have a conversation, recovery conversation to a student, where the way I'm going to engage, is going to be very different compared to a professional loan or a home loan or things like that. So ultimately what the system would be able to do is engage and identify the scenarios, detect the emotions, and automatically adjust and accommodate accordingly. And then, as I said, we'll be able to understand that, okay, who is more likely to engage over the phone. There are cases who are more prone to respond to, let's say, some sort of a message, and then selecting a right sort of channel, selecting a right sort of messaging, even selecting a right sort of language. If I'm talking to somebody in tier 3, tier 4, talking in their dialects, their language is going to make the entire experience more comfortable and more, empathetic compared to having a very structured, same conversation. So with systems, you would be able to select the tonality, you would be able to select languages, you will be able to select the channels, and that is going to ultimately impact the overall experience, what we talked about. And then the KPI, what we are talking about, is it would not always be just the number of calls or the attempt, which is just like an input matrix. But then the KPIs is going to move more towards what is the overall engagement rate, and most likely, and ultimately we are talking about collection, right? So from a engagement to a successful recovery. So I think these are the new KPIs which are going to emerge.
We have seen many event management companies, hotel industry. There are so many other service industries where we don't look for the regulators to come in picture to resolve our problems. It's the self-regulated mostly, and they have the proper hierarchy where if you are not satisfied with their services, where you have to reach. But unfortunately in the financial industries, although there is a structure, but it is not so effective. So I would like to bring Arijit and his view, how we are going to make it more effective so that customers should, because customers whom we have onboarded, they are the part of our organization. They are basically the bread earner for us. So how we are going to deal with them and how effective, grievance redressal forum we can develop within the organization.
Thank you. I think that's a very valid question. And there are two ways to look at it. And what Dhaval and Shreyas were saying in terms of technology use, I think we're just about scratching the surface. With the kind of attrition that happens, human in the loop kind of technology is what is required. AI should guide. AI has access to all the information in terms of how a call has to be handled. Because देखिए overall landscape में तो कोई change नहीं है. एजेंट भी उसी तरीके से बात कर रहा है, कस्टमर भी वैसे ही जवाब दे रहा है, एजेंट भी उसी तरीके से विजिट करता है, कस्टमर भी उसी तरीके से रिएक्ट करता है. सो एवरी पॉसिबल सिनेरियो इज ऑलरेडी probably coded somewhere in the database. Now if AI can actually tell us in terms of if the situation is going south, how do we manage it versus if the situation is normal, where do we improvise, how do we improvise? I think that's where technology will play a big role in terms of actually being a game changer. Second is when we look at a collection related complaint, invariably it's the collections team which is kind of looked at as the scapegoat for crucifixion. कि क्या हुआ है. However, जब आप regulator की बात कर रहे हैं, regulator does not entertain any direct complaints. So if you as a consumer try to go to the regulator will push you back to the regulated entity unless and until you can prove the fact that regulated entity ने जो जवाब दिया था आपको, that was good for nothing, and that is why you're seeking remedial measures from the regulator. So I think a lot of heavy lifting has also to be done by the customer service, the grievance addressal desks also, in terms of figuring out the right set of solutioning that comes in. Because again, as I was saying, कि complaints की nature में तो कोई फर्क नहीं है. जो customer collection related complaint कर रहा है, he or she is talking about the same thing that happened. It is either harassment or speaking to family members or visiting during unearthly hours or unparliamentary language. घूम फिर के यही सभी होता है. However, every complaint that comes to the regulated entity is an opportunity to kind of avoid it going to the regulator. Because regulator के पास अगर जाएगा तो regulator A, as I said in my previous this thing, is कि the regulated entity is guilty till proven innocent. That's the approach. So how is it that the moment the complaint comes in, can we turn things around? If something has even gone wrong at the level of collections, can the customer service or the grievance addressal use that opportunity and turn things around rather than it being mechanized that complaint आया है, collection के पास भेजेंगे, वो तो कहेंगे भाई investigation result is nothing wrong, please respond back to the customer is not happy, we'll go to the regulator will then ask for evidences, will impose penalties, so on and so forth, the cycle continues. So I think it's equally a parameter or a KPI at the grievance addressal end itself, that every complaint that comes in, how is it that it does not go to the regulator is something that needs to kind of get institutionalized within the organization. If it comes to you, there should be no reason why it kind of goes to the regulator. So I think that's a metric that organizations have already started adopting. We adopted big time. And I think that's what is going to kind of save the regulator also of the pressure of the number of complaints, because the latest update that we have from the last meeting that we had with the ED is they are saying the complaint resolution mechanism at the regulator level, यानी banking ombudsman या banking lokpal जो उन लोगों ने set up करा है, that is not RBI's job, but they have deputed staff there, and they are now going to recover the cost of operating that center from the regulated entities. कि जितने complaint आएंगे, उसका एक cost value associate करके will go back as a memo or a receipt to the regulated entity. So that's essentially how things are.
Thank you, Arijit. So I think training of the employee on regular interval and creating an empathy, how to react to the customers or delinquent customers with empathy, that we will have to do on daily basis with our employees as well as to our vendors. But today everybody is talking about digital, and we are also into an era of digital. So many changes that we have witnessed in collections also. So pre-delinquency management or the early delinquency management, every organization is having, 70-80% of the work is done through digital medium itself. So Manoj, what is your view that who should own it? Because most of the IT involvement is required there. Then there are so many risk parameters which is involved there. So who should own it? Either risk team or your IT team or the team who has developed the algorithm or the collection team?
See, all three teams play a vital role to resolve the cases. Like you are saying कि apple is beneficial for the health, banana is beneficial for the health, या grapes is beneficial for the health. The common goal is to स्वस्थ रहे, बच्चा स्वस्थ रहे. Likewise, all three team का department का work is to enhance the recovery. Problem को resolve करने का है. So all three people are, whether it is IT department, whether it is technology, whether it is risk or collection, all three are working for one simple common goal, that is to recover our losses. So I can say that technology is having the intelligence, while recovery team or collection team is the execution part, play the execution part, and the risk team play the review mechanism. They provide the data. So all three people are working, their role are very vital to recover the amount. But if I have to say who is playing more vital role, so definitely I will give credit to the risk team, because they analyze the data and accordingly they send the message to the collection team that this customer may regularize their EMI only on talk, or only to restructure the loan. Yeah, if I will provide some help to the customer, definitely they are going to move to zero bucket. Yeah, they may say, nahi, collection team say, ki here we need to involve legal activities, we have to go for hard approach. So yeah, risk team, as per me, risk team is playing a vital role. But yeah, again, all three vertical, all three department, all three people are working for the common goal, that is to recover our losses.
Yeah. So Manojji, I acknowledge that all three of are working for the same goal, but in practical
So,
scenario, it
Sanjay,
always happens that
Just, I would like to add a couple of points on this. So what he's rightly said is that, the ownership of, let's say, pre-delinquency management, it is normally a cross-functional project in most of the organizations. With the key inputs come from the data science, which will probably segment your data in various segments. There is like plethora of data which comes from bureau, honors, offers, lots of data which is being there. So they are the ones who will model the data and give you the risk segmentations. Then there will be the credit and the risk team, which will be monitoring the the output of how the campaigns and execution is happening. Then there will be a product or a strategy team which will be executing this entire campaign at a organization level. That which case, which channel to pick, what kind of campaigns to do, what kind of engagements to happen, and at what center, which point the data should go to which player. Okay, so if it's supposed to play, let's say the customer has given a PTP of so and so date. He's saying that I don't have a mandate, I'll probably give you the payment on the same day or the next day. So real-time data should flow to your field team so that the person can reach there on time. So those kind of inputs will probably go from somebody who's anchoring this project, probably a strategy or a product team who generally does this. And once the entire activity is concluded, whatever the bounce or whatever the feedback comes, that feedback goes to your credit or your risk for policy making. Because let's say if you're getting a feedback that certain location is showing you a lot of red flags because the bounces are increasing. There could be any reasons. There could be a potential fraud. There could be a location level issue. There could be some crisis which is happening. Those kind of red flags you'll get in advance. So that's where your policy correction needs to happen really fast. If you're not able to do the policy corrections on time, you'll probably see that the bounces will keep on continually grow. So that's where the ownership of these particular activities is not just the collection or a particular unit. It's a combined ownership of these 4-5 departments who drive this at an organization level. It has to work as a one coherent engine. If people are thinking that ki ye mera kaam itna hi hai, mera kaam itna hi, it is a recipe for disaster and you will never work out. We have seen this happen in quite a few organizations where people don't own up to these things and then end up losing a lot of money. A lot of this, small ticket PL loans and everything. A lot of them, most of the organizations have seen their hands burn because of this particular aspect, because they did not identify the early flags of delinquency and bounces. Okay, so that's where this approach needs to come. So I totally agree with what Sanjay said. Thank you.
Thank you. So being a digital partner, I would like to know your view, Dhaval. Whom would you like to interact for this pre-delinquency management, whether risk team, collections team, or the analytical team, or team which is providing the IT support?
Sir, so I agree with my panelists that it's not going to be one function role. Everybody is going to have a different role to play when it comes to risk. They are going to basically define processes, strategies, but ultimately it's the collection who owns the outcome and who's going to execute. And then you need IT, which is going to give you scale, and AI is going to bring the efficiency. But one thing which I would like to add over here is that the one role which is missing, and I would not be surprised that, let's say, a year or 2 years down the line when we are meeting, you might have a manager for agents. Like everybody is now moving towards agentic, right? Voice AI is just part of it. Then you are having document collection agents, then you are having systems which are going to talk about system. Now every large enterprise solution, what you are talking about, have come up with some sort of MCP interface where the system can talk to other system without any connection. So ultimately, as we talked earlier, that depending on the users, depending on the kind of loans what we are doing, the behavior is going to change, but ultimately that is coming from some human, right? So it's somebody who is giving the instruction to agents, which is giving instruction to system. So eventually, sir, I believe that there are going to be managers who are just managing agents. They might not have a human team, but somebody who is a domain expert who understands each and every function, which is more like a generalist, but he is the one who is going to make sure that the models has proper training, because ultimately it's going to behave based on the training data, based on the instruction which has been provided. A wrong instruction, now we talked about that, okay, we can reach out to millions of people. So a wrong instruction means wrong millions of executions. So what information you provide, what training you provide, and how you design, that's going to be very critical. So eventually I'll also think that there is going to be a role of a person who is just in charge of the entire agentic ecosystem and who is going to bring that domain expertise in those, including the voice AI. So yeah, it is going to be a collection of all the department with a new role emerging, sir.
Thank you, Dhaval. I think we all agreed during the discussion that the role of collection is going to change and is bound to change, because we will have to go with time. We cannot work in isolation. Cost and time we will have to reduce, and we will have to increase efficiency and effectiveness. But underlining the fact that customers will remain in center, and customer service should be the priority, even in collections also. And empathy should be brought in while we are servicing the customers. We are not doing recovery, we are basically servicing the customers. So thank you all the panelists. Any questions from the audience? We are open. Anybody?
Hi, my name is Sumit Gaushinde. It was a very good and intense discussion on all the aspects of those. See, what I understand from my experience that there are mainly two type of defaulters, incidental and intentional. For intentional defaulters, we all know what has to be done. But for incidental defaulters, this is what is one key pain area for most of the people, that how to deal with them. So there, you know, what comes is we expect a lot from the collection people, the ground people, that they have to behave this way, that way, and the whole. But in the most of the organizations, not much focus is given on the empathy part. They are not trained on that. They are supposed to behave in a manner, but we don't train them how to behave. You would have seen every organization will have sales training, credit training, everywhere. But collection training is one part which is very much neglected. Okay, so this is, I mean, a lot of industry experts are here, and they all will agree that this is one thing. As a leaders of this domain, we should put a lot of emphasis in our organizations for putting more structured training towards the collection departments. So I just wanted to know the opinion of the panel on this. Thank you.
So I'll take that question. So I come from HDFC Bank, so we have a proper structured training program, okay? So when a newcomer comes in, we put them through that. We have external trainers as well as internal trainers also. Okay, make them understand the policies of the bank, the regulatory policies also. And also we have certain sessions where, the credit and the policy team also explains the product, so they understand. Because typically what happens is when a collection guy goes in the field, I'm talking about a bank officer, not a DRA, the first intention is, "Arey, isko to loan milna nahi chahiye, to de diya credit wale ne." That's the immediate impact, right? So from that perspective, it's very important for him or her to understand the product and the policy. So we have those trainings, okay? So and it should not be just one time. It is an ongoing training. And I think what you said is absolutely right. For each and every organization today, given the overall scenario from a regulatory perspective, it's very important for each and every employee to undergo a proper collection training, including a certification also.
And it's not about the functional training. As you rightly mentioned, that there should be emotions management training also, and obviously that is needed in the market.
So I just want to add few things. I agree with Sumit that training is an important part. And unfortunately, we are missing. Like my colleague told कि we are giving the training. Yeah, we normally every bank give the training. That is only when the person join to brief about the company, policies. But what I believe Sumit is asking, the way they have to behave on the field while meeting with the customers, what should be their behavior? And it's not a 1 day or 2 day training. It's a continuous process because every customer is having different from others. And in one particular manner, we can't deal with every customers. So I agree with Sumit, we must have one dedicated team to train field guys, how to deal with the customers, how to discuss with the customers, when you have to aggressive, when you have to very soft corner. That is very much important, and definitely we, as a senior people, we should request to the company that they start it.
Yeah, I will just add one point. See, the day we start celebrating people who show empathy and drive out-of-box solutions, just as much as our performers, the people who drive numbers, these things will start changing because, it is us as a policymakers or us as an organization that drive this change. Okay, and normally people will follow on what kind of path we set them on. So if you are setting them on a path wherein, a good behavior with the customer or someone who has done out of the box for the customer is being celebrated, believe me, more and more people will take inspiration because you need to make role models of such people. We have role models for people who are doing excellent numbers, but we don't have enough role models for people who are doing such kind of things. People who have done excellent job and created an example out of a collection scenario, that could have gone really bad, but because of a particular thing and one act of kindness, it kind of, rejuvenates that market also. I've seen these examples in commercial vehicle segments and, microfinance and those kind of segments quite a lot because, these segments are very, very, the word of mouth spreads really fast over there. So your one act of kindness really helps. And we need to start celebrating these people. Once we start celebrating, this kind of a culture will come up into a lot of organizations, and then you will see that change in behavior quite a lot.
Sir, adding to the training part, while we discuss about the KPIs in future, even in most of the companies, in most of the HFCs also, training is now part of the leadership KPIs. Even there is some weightage also, but again, जैसे leaders ने कहा कि training जो है एक दिन में ये नहीं होगा, ये continuous चलने वाला process है. आज के कलेक्शन में खास करके हम दो तरीके से ट्रेनिंग देखते हैं. एक क्लासरूम ट्रेनिंग जो सर ने कहा कि कंपनी के बारे में जानना, कंपनी के प्रोडक्ट पॉलिसीज़ के बारे में जानना, अप्रोच, बिहेवियर, विजन, मिशन को कंटिन्यू करना. एक होता है फील्ड की ट्रेनिंग. कलेक्शन में ये एडवांटेज आपके पास होता है कि फील्ड आपको खुद सिखा देता है. तो यस, ट्रेनिंग इज मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट एंड इट्स अ पार्ट ऑफ KPI. थैंक यू.
Actually, Sumit was emphasizing on the cultural change rather than just developing a mechanism to develop a KPI or one-day training. So cultural change will not happen once in a day. It will take time, and yes, conscious effort is needed, and we acknowledge that it is missing. And obviously, going forward, even the regulators or the legal bodies, they are always emphasizing on the need of this training, and that's what this 100 hours DRA training program has been made mandatory for the recovery agents. But yes, that will also not going to solve the problem unless and until apex body will decide that they will have to change the culture of the company or change the culture of the organization. Because I have seen in my personal experience that if escalations comes from the collections team, it is getting celebrated that okay, लगता है हमारा team effectively field पे काम कर रहा है, that's what escalation is coming. So till you are approaching the market with this mentality, obviously your culture will not change. Empathy, customer service should come, and it will come because customers are the bread and butter earner for us. We are in service industry, they are important, they are the king, and if they will not attach to you, if they will get detached to you, organization will collapse. So yes, that is needed. Anybody else?
Sir, you wanted to speak?
I'll just add one more point, just to take things bit more practically. So during COVID, there have been cases where, we are talking to somebody and next time when you called, they said their guy is passed away. And trust me, we were not able to pick up the call for the rest of the day. So my point is everybody is human. Both sides of the phone, there is a human involved. Practically what I've seen is that every agent has a target of certain number of call to be done. So while he wants to engage, on back of his mind, he always see that, okay, I need to finish this many calls. So I think that is another factor which is behaving and impacting that behavior. So, and again, coming back, that's where technology would be able to play the role, right? As Shreyas said, 60 to 70% of calls would be able to handle by the system. And these are the people who just need a nudge. But then you would have a team who can spend more time. And also from an organization standpoint, you would not need to hire because you also want everybody to spend good time. But then otherwise unit economics doesn't make sense, right? You would not would have a situation where each agent can talk to a customer for 30 minutes. Then you would need an army of people. So I think that's where the combination of technology, which is going to take care of just low-hanging fruits, and then where you require more hand-holding, you need to understand what and why this is happening. And that's where human would be able to come in play, and then they would be able to spend more time. So I think that's how this operationally also, it would be able to impact the outcomes.
Thank you.